ever had a vacation at the beach where the entire time, I wasn't expecting to get a yes out of that. That's awesome. I like this guy. Have you ever had a vacation at the beach where the entire time was spent in pouring down rain? Where it's like, hey Vern, is that the ocean out there? Well, in August of this year, my family and I, we had the exact opposite experience. We had a great week in Nags Head, North Carolina. Just a great week with us spent as a family together. A few times it kind of threatened to rain, but it was okay. That is until the last day. Then it decided to pour down. It was like, Noah, where's the ark? It was crazy. Well, we decided, you know what, we'll get off the island a little early. So we hopped in our car and drove out. Unfortunately, everybody else had the same idea. So we were stuck in traffic on the way. So we said, hey, you know what? I'm hungry. Let's stop at Roy Rogers and get breakfast. Unfortunately, everybody else had that idea too. So we were packed in here with Roy Rogers with everybody else in Nags Head that day, I think. The rain was pouring down. You ever been in a place like that where you're in a restaurant and everybody's just, they're standing in line and everything's going slow? And what makes it worse, all the employees, the employees were understaffed, and the ones that were there either didn't know what they were doing or didn't care. That is, except for Jessica. Jessica was the one employee there who seemed to actually know what she was doing and care about it. And she was the one who was given the responsibility of serving drinks. Drinks to the people inside, drinks to the people at the drive-up. And she was working her rear end off. She was working really hard. And unfortunately, us customers, we don't do real good at distinguishing between Jessicas and non-Jessicas. And so we were all grumbling. The guy in front of me in line, he was a good example. Jessica walks up to him and she hands him his drink. He grabs the drink away from her and he says, "It's about time." She didn't hear, or at least she pretended not to. Now, I can't say that I'm a whole lot better than that guy. Frankly, I wanted to do the same thing, because we were all pretty upset about what was going on. But then, I remembered something that I read in Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know this book? Great book. Love the book. And in there, he tells a story about who he calls Marie the dishwasher. He talks about this aristocrat named Georgette in turn-of-the-century Vienna, Austria. And Georgette, well, here, let me just read the story to you. Or a bit from it, anyway. A servant girl brought Georgette her meals. They called her Marie the dishwasher. She was, quote, kind of a monster. Cross-eyed, bandy-legged, poor in flesh and spirit. One day, she was holding a plate of macaroni, and Georgette said to her, "Marie, you do not know what treasures lie within you." Accustomed to holding back her emotions, Marie waited a few moments, not daring to risk the slightest gesture for fear of catastrophe. Then she put the dish on the table, sighed, and said, "Madam, I never would have believed it." She ran out to the kitchen and told everybody what happened. She came back in a few days later and said to Georgette, "I'm going to be a lady," and thanked her. A small phrase had changed her entire life. And I thought back to this. I hadn't read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, for years. But it's flashed into my mind in just a moment. Here was my Marie standing in front of me. And so when she handed me my coffee, instead of grabbing it, I took it and I said, "Jessica, thank you." And most of us won't tell you this, but us customers, we really appreciate how hard you work. Well, she kind of looked at me and said, "Thank you." And then she looked at me again, the big smile. "Thank you." I took my coffee back to the table, sat down, and a few minutes later, somebody spilled the coffee. Cheryl's looking at me like, I bet it was you. Well, maybe. So I went up to get another coffee. I couldn't believe it. Jessica, she was still smiling. She handed me the coffee and she said, and I quote, she said, "You don't know how much I appreciate you saying that." I bet she walked out of that day walking on air. And not just her either. In the book, Carnegie talks about one time when he went into a post office and he wanted to say something nice to the post office clerk. And he did. Somebody asked Carnegie afterwards. They said, "What were you trying to get out of him anyway?" Carnegie said, "Absolutely nothing. All I wanted was the knowledge that I had done something nice for another human being." You know, I'll probably never know Jessica's last name, nor she mine, but I can guarantee you one thing. That day will live forever in the memory of Jessica from Nags Head and Gary from Leesburg, the day that Jessica served coffee with a smile.
Now you get to sit in the
hot seat. Hot seat.
Should we just
Where's the hot seat in the reconfigured?
Now, yeah.
In the reconfigured.
Okay, so here's a hot seat for you.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone will provide their evaluation.
Please do.
Or do you want to tell them about the evaluation or how we do it?
Basically, everybody in the room can give an evaluation, and it should not exceed 2 minutes.
If you're going to read it.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
You're sitting in the hot seat. Each evaluator should speak when called upon by the speaker. That's you.
Oh,
You have 1 to 2 minutes of uninterrupted time to provide feedback to the speaker. That's you. They should try not to say the same things. After all have had their 1 or 2 minutes, the floor is then open for general feedback until the allotted time for the speaker is consumed. This interaction, evaluation session, discussion between the speaker and the evaluation is encouraged.
Very good. Thank you.
So choose your first person, or anybody want to
Pam
raise
raised
your
her hand
hand?
first.
All right, I'm way in the back.
Was that to speak?
Come here. Gary, fun story and inspiring. You know, it's that same pass it on theme. So it's a very universal theme and a very positive one. You have a tendency to drop some of your phrases at the very end, so just in general be aware of that. So keep that volume up all the way to the end, because sometimes your jewels are in those last few words. I have a really small but sometimes important suggestion about your reference.
About my what?
You referred to a book,
Oh.
right? The Dale Carnegie book. But you didn't have the book with you. Having been in a situation where you sell from the stage, this is one of those sell from the stage moments. Where if you were giving a speech and you happen to have copies of the Dale Carnegie book in the back that you would then sell on at a profit,
Right.
you would want people to go, "What was that book that you had?" When you reference it, since you're going to read directly from it,
Right.
have an actual copy there. And when you first mention it, that would be the time to reach for it and hold it in your hand like you love it. So it's not just a flash or a wave like this, because people who want to see the cover can't see it. Hold it still, hold it with both hands like it's valuable. And then when you turn to read to it, they see that you've got it marked and that it is a well-loved book, because it's one that you've probably dog-eared and marked and whatever. But that's a little tip about using references in the front.
Thank you. That's awesome. Glenn?
Opening thing that you need to revamp. When you raised that question, you had a very distracting response. I wasn't expecting someone to agree with me. You should have, you agree, and then move on, because that's going to put a doubt question in the person's mind. Why were you not expecting a response when you asked a question? And then you run the risk of losing your audience. When you go back and play your video, especially since I'm going to be hard on you, since you are a part of Story Smiths, you know what we harp on in Story Smiths: more dialogue. And there was too much narration.
always my problem. Which one?
Deepak.
Deepak.
I did not. Okay, so I won't go into the positives, waxing the point. I'll give you constructive feedback so that you make this into international speech.
Sure.
Great story. You took as mundane a topic as giving coffee. There is this wonderful story about how inspirational it is to say that you are good. Nice connection back to the book. I myself don't like the book because I think it's very artificial. You made me go and take a look at that book. That's how persuasive you were. So thank you for that. You could have used the stage a little bit more. I wanted to use the stage a little bit more. You had the right moments to walk. You could have shown people standing in the line. You could have showed handing the coffee a little more forcefully. I think the stage limited you. Please walk. The title and the end to me did not make sense. What the title was and what you ended with was not tying for me. So maybe you need to work on that. And I probably was setting the stage for the mood in the cafeteria by saying that, you know, there was rain, there was not rain, there were people going to the table or not. I thought it was quite roundabout to get to the point. Your main focus to me was Jessica and the coffee. You could elaborate a little bit more on that. Again, it's my opinion. Great speech. You have great potential to make it into an international speech.
Thank you. Pulkit.
Hey Gary. I agree with Deepak on the opening of the speech. I also felt that there was a disconnect between how the speech was opened and then where it went. I think you could have focused on the subject of the speech, which was something like, have you ever been served a coffee with some sad face or something like that, or and then jumped into the story. Although I liked the repetition of, unfortunately, everybody else had the same idea. If you could change the opening and still use some other repetition, I think that would help. Usage of North Carolina island is not universal and just local to all of us. But if you go out of this area, then who knows that island? So be careful. They didn't know versus they didn't care. You just focused on one person and spoke about that. They didn't know and they didn't care about the waiter's first attitude. You could have used didn't know or didn't care. Two different angles to display two distinct personalities. I think you used somewhere she was working her rear end off. I don't know if this is a good term or a bad term. Yeah. Maybe think about it. Like the comparison, Jessica versus non-Jessica. You asked the question, you know this book, and I almost raised my hand, and then since you continued, so you didn't give me a chance to raise my hand. So if you're expecting your audience to interact and listen to you, give that 2-second pause for that opening. Love your opening after the question when you were saying I was expecting yes or no. So it generated humor. It might help you you could use the same line with a different question. It might help. Good comparison between Marie and Jessica. And I think I got my right card, so I'll wait for the last.
There you go.
She gets vicious when she pulls up the red.
Thank you. Cheryl.
I like that you had characters and you tried hard to distinguish between them. And that's one of the points where I have in a minute to give you a suggestion on. And you did have some dialogue, but as somebody has said, you could always do more. You did try and do some different voices, but your waitress, the woman, she was in your voice. So go higher for her. Go deeper for her. She might be a husky voice woman. We don't know, but make her be interesting. Not just pencil poor little worked to death waitress. Don't point with your gestures. This is taboo in Toastmasters. Hand open, anything but pointing. And I thought that overall, though, your gestures, other than pointing, were very effective. Did I say? Oh yeah, I told you about that. Never mind. Okay, that's it.
Awesome.
I'm fast today.
Thank you.
I like the story very much, and what a lot of people have said so far. What I would have liked to have heard is a little more contrast in understanding how the waitress felt. You know, you just said, oh, she just didn't pay any attention to the rude remarks. What I would have liked to have heard is more about you. This is how I would have felt. I would have been outraged. I would have been hurt. I wanted to hear more about you, and how she. I don't know. If I could have held my composure the way she did.
Right.
So let's hear more about her. Let's hear how you would have felt, and I think that would have added to the story. Maybe not, but that's my idea.
Anna.
I just have a very brief remark. First of all, I really enjoyed this story, and I concur with all the positives that have been illustrated here. I just wanted to say, and I'm not usually a stickler for grammar, but you said us customers twice, and it should be we customers. Because we is the subject. It shouldn't be us customers. You said it twice.
I couldn't help you out on that. I had a D- average in English.
That's probably that seems like the kind of thing I would say.
But it seems like a common usage, though.
Yeah.
I have hardly heard we customers. I've always heard us customers, and us people us and want to do this.
Right.
Grammatically not
It's
correct.
not correct,
but, yeah.
so I don't know how.
I agree with what you're saying.
It's not
You may want to
grammatically
retool that whole sentence instead of saying us customers or customers like us or something
Yeah,
like
because
that.
some people say us guys.
Yeah, I was going for a little bit of like a we're a bunch of dummies, us customers. We don't know this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I should have emphasized that a little more to make the point of what I was doing.
Well, in New Jersey, we say use guys.
Yeah, you guys.
But you gotta have that accent to back it up.
Right. Scott.
So I'll call it the second half of your opening. It was a little disconnected in terms of you said our vacation was not like that. So you could foreshadow a little better. The first part of a vacation was not like that. So then it will flow and it will lead into what they're doing.
Right.
Annie, yes. I just have a very quick remark. A couple of times you started a phrase or a sentence and then stopped and then said it again in a different way. I noted that you said all employees and then you stopped and then said the employees were. I don't know if you were thinking or gathering your thoughts, but I noted that a couple of times.
Yeah, probably. It's a brand new story, so. Okay, thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Masood, right.
I thought at the beginning was a little bit slow. I didn't quite. So if you got the video, go look at it yourself, see if you agree or not. You warmed up into it, and you kind of had emotions in it. So it was almost like a good acting job. So I liked it but at the very beginning you were kind of like it was a big disconnect. So whether if that's a regular pattern with you, then what you want to do is maybe before you just rehearsed, you're getting there and you're comfortable, or you've already gone to the second part of it so that you're warmed up. It's kind of a vague thing I'm saying, but...
I know what you're saying. I've heard that from several others said the same thing. Polka and Deepak, the same kind of comment. So I see exactly what you're saying. Thank you.
So if you already have a technique for that, then...
Yeah, do a better opening.
You're your own worst critic.
Thank you, Masood.
I hate to end the fun, but we are on a tight schedule. So
well, thank you, everybody.
Please feel free to get in.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, this is why I decided to join Toastmasters winner circle. Just so that you know. The feedback is excellent.
Okay, so we have a surprise next speaker. He's not on the agenda.